The champagne glass slipped from my trembling fingers. I watched it fall in slow motion. Crystal catching the chandelier light, amber liquid suspended midair, before it shattered against the marble floor of the Belvedere Hotel's grand ballroom. The sound cut through the string quartet like a gunshot. Conversations died. 100 pairs of eyes turned toward me. The clumsy server in the ill-fitting black vest, standing in a puddle of expensive champagne and my own humiliation. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, dropping to my knees. Glass bit into my palms as I frantically gathered the shards. Blood bloomed across my fingertips, mixing with the champagne. The scent of it, sweet, alcoholic, expensive, made my stomach turn. Everything made my stomach turn lately. "Leave it." The event coordinator's voice was ice. Marcus gestured sharply toward the kitchen. "Get out of sight. Now." I scrambled to my feet, cradling my bleeding hand against my chest. The vest pulled tight across my ribs. I'd requested a larger size last week, but they'd given me the same one I'd worn for 6 months. Nothing fit anymore. My body was changing in ways I couldn't hide much longer, expanding with a secret that terrified me more than anything else in my life. 3 months. That's how long I'd known about the baby growing inside me. 3 months of morning sickness disguised as food poisoning, of loose shirts and careful angles, of lying to my husband every single day. Not that David would notice. He barely looked at me anymore. The kitchen's fluorescent lights were harsh after the ballroom's romantic dimness. I ran cold water over my hand, watching pink spiral down the drain. My reflection in the steel refrigerator door looked haunted. Dark circles under green eyes, blonde hair escaping its bun, 26 years old but looking 40. When had I become this ghost of a person? "You're bleeding on the floor." Chef Antoine didn't look up from his meticulous plating. "Use the first aid kit or go home. I don't need you contaminating anything else tonight." The casual cruelty shouldn't have stung anymore. I'd been working these events for 2 years, ever since David's pharmaceutical sales job stopped covering our bills. Or rather, stopped covering his gambling debts, the debts he thought I didn't know about. I pressed a clean towel against my palm and leaned against the counter, breathing through another wave of nausea. The kitchen smelled like truffle oil and seared meat and something else. Cigarette smoke drifting in from the service entrance where the other servers took their breaks. I shouldn't be here. I should be home, asleep, taking care of myself and this tiny life inside me. But home was a 1-bedroom apartment, in a building that smelled like mildew and desperation. Home was David passed out on the couch, empty bottles scattered like evidence of everything we'd lost. Home was the stack of final notices I'd hidden in my underwear drawer, written in increasingly aggressive red ink. I'd married him when I was 22, convinced that love could survive anything. 4 years later, I understood that love was just the beginning. It couldn't survive indifference. It couldn't survive the slow erosion of respect, the death of conversation, the way he looked through me like I was already gone. The baby wasn't his. That truth lived in my throat like a stone I could never swallow. The baby belonged to a single night 3 months ago, when I'd been too tired, too lonely, too desperate to feel something other than invisible. A hotel bar. Too many drinks to drown the sound of David's voice on the phone. "I'll be home late, babe. Don't wait up." For the 100th time, a stranger's kind eyes, hands that touched me like I mattered. I couldn't even remember his name, just the way he'd made me feel alive for a few hours before reality crashed back in. "Emily!" Marcus's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. "The VIP section needs another round. Move." I grabbed a fresh tray, loaded it with champagne flutes, and pushed back through the swinging doors into the glittering chaos of the charity gala. The Belvedere hosted these events twice a month. Rich people paying $1,000 a plate to feel good about themselves while people like me served them and counted tips to make rent. The VIP section occupied the far corner of the ballroom, separated by velvet ropes and the invisible barrier of wealth. I kept my eyes down as I approached, focusing on not dropping anything else, not drawing attention, not existing any louder than absolutely necessary. That's when I smelled it. Sandalwood and something darker. Leather, maybe cedar. Something expensive and masculine that cut through the perfume-heavy air like a blade. It made me pause. made me look up before I could stop myself. He sat at the center table, surrounded by men in suits that probably cost more than my car. But I only saw him. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. He couldn't have been more than 30, but he wore power like other men wore cologne, an invisible weight that made the space around him bend. His suit was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored to shoulders that suggested violence kept carefully leashed. But it was his eyes that stopped my heart. Gray. Storm cloud gray. And they were looking directly at me. I forgot how to breathe. The tray tilted in my hands, champagne sloshing dangerously close to the rim. His gaze traveled from my face down to my bleeding hand, still wrapped in the towel, then back up with an intensity that made my skin prickle with heat. One of the men at his table said something. The stranger's attention shifted, releasing me from whatever spell he'd cast. I exhaled shakily and moved forward, setting champagne glasses on their table with trembling fingers. Careful. His voice was low, textured like smoke. He reached out and steadied the tray before I could tip it. His hand brushed mine, just for a second, skin against skin. An electricity shot up my arm. I jerked back. "I'm sorry, sir, Your hand is bleeding." It wasn't a question. Up close, he was even more devastating. The overhead lights caught silver cufflinks at his wrists, a watch that probably cost 6 figures, a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He smelled like money and danger, and something wild I couldn't name. "It's fine," I managed, "just a small cut. From the glass you dropped. Again, not a question." He'd been watching. "Sit down." "I can't. I'm working." "Sit." The word was quiet but absolute. The men around him shifted, creating space. One of them, thick-necked, wearing an earpiece, pulled out a chair. My legs folded before my brain caught up. I sat, the tray balanced awkwardly on my lap, while this stranger unwrapped the towel from my hand. His fingers were warm, careful, examining the cuts across my palm with the focus of a surgeon. "Dante." He didn't look up. "First aid kit." The thick-necked man disappeared. The stranger's thumb pressed gently against my wrist, finding my pulse. Could he feel how it raced? Could he sense the panic threading through my veins? Not fear of him, but fear of this. Whatever this was, this attention I didn't deserve and couldn't handle. "You're pale," he observed. "When did you last eat?" "I'm fine." "That's the second time you've lied to me in as many minutes." His eyes lifted to mine, pinning me in place. "I don't like lies, Piccola." The Italian endearment rolled off his tongue like a caress. I should stand up. I should walk away. I should remember that men who commanded rooms like this, who made grown men jump at single words, who touched strangers with the casual assumption of obedience. Those men were dangerous, but I couldn't move. Dante returned with a black leather case. The stranger, I still didn't know his name, opened it with practiced efficiency. Medical supplies, expensive ones. He cleaned my cuts with antiseptic that stung, wrapped my hand in gauze with surprising gentleness. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emily." It escaped before I could stop it. "Emily." He repeated it like he was tasting it, memorizing it. "I'm Mr. Salvatore." Marcus appeared at my elbow, his face pale with barely concealed panic. "I apologize for the disruption. This employee will be disciplined. She'll be fine." Those gray eyes never left mine. "In fact, I'm reassigning her. Emily will serve my table exclusively for the rest of the evening. Of course, whatever you— Alone." The word cut Marcus off mid-sentence. "Everyone else can leave." The dismissal was absolute. Marcus backed away, practically bowing. The other servers melted into the crowd. Even the men at Salvatore's table stood and moved to nearby positions, close enough to intervene but far enough to grant the illusion of privacy. We were alone in a room full of hundreds. "You don't have to," I started. "Tell me something, Emily." He leaned back in his chair, studying me with an intensity that made me feel transparent. "Are you afraid of me?" I should say yes. Every instinct screamed that this man was predatory, powerful, exactly the kind of danger I couldn't afford. But something in his question demanded honesty. No, I whispered. His smile was slow, devastating. You should be. Before I could respond, my stomach twisted viciously. I pressed my good hand against my mouth, fighting the nausea that had been my constant companion for weeks. Not here. Not now. Please. Emily? His voice sharpened. What's wrong? Nothing, I just need... I stood too quickly. The room tilted. The tray clattered to the floor. Strong hands caught me before I could follow it, pulling me against a chest that was all solid muscle and expensive fabric. Dante. The car. Now. Sir, I'm fine, really, but the world was spinning, my vision tunneling to a pinpoint of light. When had I last eaten? Yesterday? The day before? Food seemed impossible when everything made me sick. The last thing I felt before darkness took me was being lifted into arms that held me like I weighed nothing at all, and that sandalwood scent surrounding me like a promise or a threat. I woke up in the back of a car that cost more than my entire life. Leather, chrome, the hushed purr of an engine that probably had more horsepower than sense. I blinked up at a ceiling lined with ambient lights that shifted from blue to soft white, trying to piece together how I'd gone from the ballroom floor to this mobile palace. Easy. That voice again. Smoke and authority. Don't try to sit up yet. But I did anyway, because lying down in a stranger's car felt more dangerous than vertigo. The world swayed, then settled. I was stretched across a seat long enough to be a small bed. My head had been resting on a pillow that smelled like sandalwood. Him. Salvatore sat across from me in the spacious back cabin, perfectly composed, watching me with those storm-gray eyes. He'd removed his jacket. His white shirt was rolled up at the sleeves, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with ink. I couldn't quite make out in the dim light. A tattoo. Multiple tattoos. Not the kind of thing you saw on legitimate businessmen. Where? My voice came out rusty. Where are we? Driving. He lifted a crystal glass. Water, not alcohol. Drink this. I should refuse. I should demand he take me back. Instead, I took the glass with my bandaged hand and drank, the cool water sliding down my throat like salvation. I hadn't realized how thirsty I was. Better? He didn't wait for an answer. You fainted. Low blood sugar, dehydration, possibly both. When did you last have a proper meal? I don't see how that's your concern. You made it my concern when you collapsed in my arms, Piccola. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, close enough that I could see the exact shade of gray in his eyes, darker at the edges, lighter near the pupil, like a winter sky. Now answer the question. Something about his tone made defiance impossible. Yesterday morning. Maybe. His jaw tightened. Maybe. I work 2 jobs. Sometimes I forget. No one forgets to eat. His gaze dropped to my stomach, just for a second. So quickly I might have imagined it. Unless there's a reason food doesn't appeal. My blood turned to ice. He couldn't know. There was no way he could know. I'd been so careful, so paranoid about hiding it. But the way he looked at me, like he could see through skin and bone to the secret growing inside. I need to go home. I set the glass down on the small table between us, trying to keep my hand steady. My husband will be worried. The temperature in the car dropped 10 degrees. Husband. He said it like a curse. Interesting. You're not wearing a ring. Instinctively, I touched my bare left hand. I'd sold my wedding ring 2 months ago to pay the electric bill. David had been too drunk to notice. I don't wear it to work. It's safer. Don't. The single word cracked like a whip. I told you I don't like lies. We stared at each other across the small space. Through the tinted windows, I could see the city sliding past. Buildings I didn't recognize, streets too clean and well-lit to be anywhere near my neighborhood. Panic fluttered in my chest. Where are you taking me? Somewhere you can eat a proper meal without fainting. He pulled out his phone, typed something with quick, efficient movements. My doctor will meet us there. He'll check you over. No. The word burst out sharper than I intended. No doctors, I'm fine. Just take me home. His eyes narrowed. You just collapsed unconscious. I'm fine. I could hear the desperation in my voice, the edge of hysteria. A doctor would know immediately, would see what I'd been hiding, would ask questions I couldn't answer. Please. I just need to go home. To your husband who doesn't notice you don't eat. His voice was soft, deadly. Who lets you work yourself sick at 2 jobs? Who doesn't even care enough to make sure you wear his ring? You don't know anything about my life. I know you're lying to yourself. He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. I know you're protecting someone who doesn't deserve it. And I know that whatever you're hiding, Piccola, it's eating you alive. Tears burned behind my eyes. I blinked them back furiously. I would not cry in front of this stranger, this dangerous man who saw too much and made me feel too exposed. Why do you care? My voice broke on the question. You don't know me. No, he agreed. Not yet. The certainty in those 2 words made my stomach flip in a way that had nothing to do with morning sickness. The car slowed, turned, descended into what looked like an underground parking garage, but not just any garage. This was the kind with security checkpoints and cameras every 10 feet, the kind that served buildings where penthouses cost what normal people made in a lifetime. This isn't a restaurant, I said. Very observant. The car stopped. Dante appeared at the door, opening it with military precision. Salvatore stepped out, then turned and offered me his hand. It's my home, and before you refuse, understand that I'm not asking. I should have been terrified. Every self-preservation instinct I possessed screamed at me to run. But when I looked at his extended hand, scarred knuckles, long fingers, a silver ring on his right hand engraved with something I couldn't read, all I felt was a strange magnetic pull. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and certain. The elevator ride was silent. Dante stood behind us, a wall of muscle and menace. 2 other men had materialized from somewhere, both wearing suits, both with the same watchful intensity, both armed. I could see the bulge of weapons under their jackets. What do you do? I asked quietly. Salvatore's lips curved. I acquire things. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. The elevator doors opened directly into an apartment that made my breath catch. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, lights spreading out like fallen stars. The space was all clean lines and expensive materials. Marble, dark wood, leather furniture that probably cost more than my car, art on the walls that looked real, not printed, a kitchen visible through an archway. All stainless steel and sharp edges. Sit. He guided me toward a leather couch that was butter soft under my thighs. Don't move. He disappeared into the kitchen. I heard the clink of dishes, the low murmur of voices. He was talking to someone, giving orders in rapid Italian. I caught maybe 1 word in 10. Cibo. Food. Veloce. Quickly. I should leave. I should call a cab, walk out, forget this night ever happened. But my body felt heavy, exhausted, and the couch was so comfortable. When had I last sat on furniture that wasn't second-hand or falling apart? Salvatore returned with a tray. Bread, crusty and still warm. Cheese, grapes, a small bowl of soup that smelled like heaven. Nothing fancy, nothing that would upset a sensitive stomach. He set it on the coffee table in front of me. Eat. I told you I'm not hungry. Yes, you've said. He settled into the chair across from me, all controlled power and patience I didn't trust. Eat anyway, or I'll feed you myself. The threat shouldn't have made heat pool in my belly. I picked up the spoon with my bandaged hand, dipped it into the soup. Chicken and rice. Simple and perfect. The first taste made me realize how hollow I was, how long I'd been running on empty. I ate. He watched. It should have been uncomfortable, this intimate surveillance, but instead, it felt almost protective, like he was making sure I took care of myself, because no one else would. Better? He asked, when I'd finished half the bowl. Yes. I set the spoon down. Don't thank me yet. He stood, moved to the windows, his silhouette dark against the city lights. Tell me about your husband, Emily. There's nothing to tell. Is he the reason you look like you haven't slept in weeks? He turned, and the light caught his face, making the sharp planes look carved from stone. Is he the reason you're working yourself to death? My marriage is none of your business. Perhaps. He moved closer, each step deliberate. But you are. Why? The question burst out before I could stop it. Why do you care about some random server who dropped a glass? Why go to all this trouble? He stopped in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You want honesty, Piccola? I don't know. I saw you across that ballroom looking like a ghost pretending to be alive, and something in me recognized something in you. His hand lifted, fingers brushing my cheek so gently I almost didn't feel it. Damage calls to damage. I should pull away. Instead, I leaned into his touch, starving for gentleness. I need to go home, I whispered. Why? So you can lie to a man who doesn't deserve you? So you can keep pretending everything is fine? His thumb traced my lower lip and I shivered. Stay tonight. Sleep in a real bed. Let someone take care of you for once. I can't. Can't or won't. My phone buzzed in my pocket, reality crashing back in. I pulled it out with shaking hands. 3 missed calls from David. My stomach dropped. Salvatore read my expression. His face went cold, hard, all the gentleness vanishing like it had never existed. Call him back. What? Call your husband. Tell him you're safe, that you're staying with a friend tonight. His voice was ice. And tomorrow, you're going to tell me the truth about why you're really afraid to go home. You can't just... I can. He straightened, putting distance between us. Dante will show you to the guest room. You'll find everything you need. In the morning, we'll talk. And if I refuse? His smile was sharp enough to draw blood. Then I'll have you followed home. I'll watch you walk into whatever situation you're so desperate to hide. And then I'll intervene anyway, Piccola, but with much less kindness. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. I stood on shaking legs. You're insane. Probably. He turned back to the windows, dismissing me. But I'm also the only person who's noticed you're drowning. So make the call, Emily, and then get some rest. Because tomorrow, everything changes. I wanted to argue, to fight. But exhaustion was crashing over me in waves, and the thought of going back to that apartment, to David's indifference and my carefully constructed lies, made me want to scream. I dialed. David answered on the 4th ring, voice slurred. Em? Where the hell are you? I'm staying at Sarah's tonight. The lie came easily. Sarah was a co-worker he'd never met. One of her kids is sick. She needs help. Whatever. I could hear the television in the background, the crack of a beer can opening. Don't wake me when you get home tomorrow. He hung up before I could respond. I stared at the phone, feeling nothing. Not anger, not hurt. Just the hollow echo of a marriage that had died so slowly I'd barely noticed it was gone. When I looked up, Salvatore was watching me in the reflection of the window, his expression unreadable. Guest room is down the hall, he said quietly. 2nd door on the left. Lock it if you want. Though I promise, Piccola, you're safe here. From him? Or from everything else? I didn't ask. I just followed Dante down a hallway lined with closed doors and secrets, into a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment, and when I finally locked the door and collapsed onto a bed that felt like sleeping on clouds, I let myself cry for the first time in months. Tomorrow, he'd said. Everything changes. I was terrified he was right. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. The sheets were too soft, the mattress too perfect, the silence too complete. Then it all crashed back. The gala, the fainting, Salvatore's storm-gray eyes and dangerous promises. I sat up slowly, testing my body. The nausea was still there, a low simmer in my stomach, but manageable. Someone had left clothes folded on a chair by the door, expensive-looking loungewear in soft gray, tags still attached. My work uniform was gone. The adjoining bathroom was all marble and chrome, with a shower that had more settings than my car. I stood under water hot enough to scald, letting it wash away the previous night's terror and confusion. When I finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that probably cost more than my rent, I found the pregnancy test sitting on the counter. My heart stopped. It was still in the box, unopened, placed carefully next to a handwritten note in sharp, masculine script. You don't have to tell me. But you should tell yourself. He knew. Somehow, impossibly, he knew. I sank onto the closed toilet lid, staring at that little box like it was a bomb. 3 months I'd been hiding this. 3 months of denial and terror and desperate planning. How had a stranger seen through me in one night? My hands shook as I opened the box. I'd taken one of these before, alone in a gas station bathroom at 2 a.m, watching those 2 lines appear and feeling my entire world crack apart. But I'd never told anyone, not David, not my mother, not even Sarah, who I actually did consider a friend. The second test showed the same results as the first. Pregnant. Definitely, undeniably pregnant. I dressed in the clothes Salvatore had left, because walking out in my towel seemed like a worse option. They fit perfectly. How had he known my size? The question settled uneasily in my stomach alongside the morning sickness. The apartment looked different in daylight. Less intimidating, more lived in. Books in Italian and English, a laptop open on the dining table, coffee cups in the sink. At least 3, which meant he'd been up for hours. I found him on the terrace. He stood at the railing, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian that sounded like violence wrapped in silk. The morning sun caught the dark strands of his hair, the sharp line of his jaw. He'd changed into dark jeans and a black Henley that clung to shoulders I now knew were solid muscle. He glanced over as I approached, held up one finger, wait, and finished his conversation with what sounded like a threat. Then he hung up and turned to face me fully. "You're awake," he said. Not a question. Nothing with this man was a question. You knew. I held up the pregnancy test box. How? You're pale, exhausted, you reek of fear, and you wouldn't let me call a doctor. His eyes traveled over me, clinical and thorough. Plus, you keep touching your stomach when you think no one's looking. It wasn't difficult. Heat flooded my face. You had no right. To what? Notice? Care? He moved closer, and I fought the urge to retreat. Tell me something, Emily. Does your husband know? No. Why not? Because it's not his. Because I betrayed him even though our marriage was already dead. Because I'm a coward who can't face the consequences of one desperate night. It's complicated, I said instead. Complicated. He laughed, sharp and humorless. That's one word for it. He turned back to the railing, gripping it hard enough that his knuckles went white. Is the baby his? The question hung between us like a blade. Why does it matter to you? My voice came out smaller than I intended. I'm nobody. You don't owe me anything. Answer the question. No. The admission ripped out of me. It's not his. He doesn't know. And I need to leave before what? He spun to face me, and the intensity in his eyes stole my breath. Before you go back to working yourself sick, before you collapse again, before you make yourself choose between eating and paying rent. That's my life, I shouted, something breaking open inside me. That's my reality, and you can't just swoop in with your money and your power and fix it because you feel sorry for me. Sorry. His laugh was dangerous. You think I feel sorry for you? Then what is this? I gestured wildly at the apartment. At him, at everything. Why am I here? What do you want from me? He crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, backing me against the terrace railing. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. Smell that sandalwood scent that made my head spin. I want, he said softly, to know who put that terror in your eyes. I want to know who made you believe you're worthless. And I want to know what kind of man lets his wife waste away while he stopped himself, jaw clenching. But more than that, Piccola, I want to know why you're protecting him. I'm not. You called him last night, lied about where you were, listened to him hang up on you like you didn't matter. His hand lifted, fingers threading through my damp hair. Tell me I'm wrong. I couldn't. The truth was written all over my face. He doesn't hit me, I whispered. It's not like that. There are many ways to hurt someone, Emily. Fists are just the most obvious. His thumb traced my cheekbone. Does he know you're drowning? He has his own problems. That's not an answer. What do you want me to say? Tears blurred my vision. That my marriage is over? That I made a mistake and now I'm pregnant with another man's baby? That I'm so tired I can barely think straight? That I work 2 jobs and can't afford groceries? That I'm terrified every single day? Yes. His forehead pressed against mine. Say all of it. Stop pretending you're fine. I can't afford to not be fine. The words broke on a sob. I have to keep going. I have to figure this out. I have to... You don't have to do anything alone anymore. You don't even know me. Then let me. His hands cupped my face, thumbs wiping away tears I didn't remember shedding. Let me help you. Why? The question was barely a whisper. His eyes searched mine, and for just a moment, I saw something raw and aching beneath all that controlled power, because someone should have helped me once, and no one did. Because I know what it's like to feel trapped, and because when I look at you, Piccola, I see someone worth saving. I should have pulled away, should have told him this was insane, that I couldn't accept help from a stranger, that whatever this was would only make everything more complicated. Instead, I leaned into his touch and let myself believe, just for a moment, that maybe I didn't have to do this alone. My phone shattered the moment. David's name flashed across the screen. Salvatore's expression went cold. Don't answer it. I have to. If you don't, what? He'll worry? He'll come looking for you? His voice was acid. Or will he just open another beer and forget you exist? The accuracy hurt more than it should have. I answered anyway. Where are you? David's voice was sharp, suspicious. Sarah said you never came over. My blood turned to ice. What? I called her. Wanted to know when you'd be back. I could hear the accusation underneath. She had no idea what I was talking about. So I'll ask again. Where the fuck are you, Emily? Salvatore watched me, perfectly still, but I could feel the danger rolling off him in waves. I met another friend. I didn't want to bother Sarah. Stop lying. Are you with someone? David's voice rose. Is that what this is? No. David, I just needed... Get home. Now. We need to talk. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, dread settling like concrete in my stomach. Salvatore took it gently from my shaking hands. You're not going back there, he said. I have to. No, you don't. He pulled out his own phone. Dante will pack your things. You'll stay here until... Until what? Panic made my voice sharp. You can't just keep me here. I have a life. Responsibilities. You have a husband who tracks your lies and demands you come home like your property. His eyes were iron. That's not a life, Emily. That's a prison. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. He stepped closer, intensity burning in every line of his body. Explain why you're so desperate to go back to a man who doesn't care if you eat, if you sleep, if you live or die. Because I have nowhere else to go. The scream tore out of me. Because I'm pregnant and broke and terrified. And at least there I have a roof over my head. At least there I know what to expect. And what do you expect, Piccola? His voice dropped to something deadly soft. That he'll forgive you for the baby? That he'll suddenly become the man you need? Or are you just waiting for him to destroy what's left of you? Stop. I pressed my hands over my ears like a child. Just stop. He pulled my hands down gently, but his grip was unbreakable. I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to listen. Your husband called your friend to check your alibi. That means he suspects, and when men like that suspect, they don't ask questions. They look for proof. How long before he finds it? Finds what? The pregnancy test you bought 3 months ago. The prenatal vitamins hidden in your dresser. The hospital bills from the clinic. His eyes bored into mine. I had someone look into your life last night, Emily. It took them 4 hours to find everything you've been hiding. The world tilted. You had no right. I had every right to protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The certainty in those 2 words made my knees weak, but you will be. Because I'm going to make you a deal, Piccola, and you're going to take it. What deal? He released my hands, straightened to his full height. In the morning light, he looked like something carved from marble, beautiful and brutal and absolutely certain. You divorce your husband. You let me provide for you and the baby. And in return, his smile was sharp. You tell me the truth about everything. No more lies, No more hiding. You let me take care of you. That's insane. Probably. He shrugged. But it's also the only option that doesn't end with you broken. So what's it going to be, Emily? Prison or freedom? I thought about David's voice on the phone. The way he'd checked my story. The look he'd have when I walked through the door. Suspicious. Angry. Looking for ammunition. I thought about the baby growing inside me. The one I couldn't afford to keep but couldn't bear to lose. And I thought about this dangerous stranger offering me salvation with blood on his hands and storm clouds in his eyes. If I say yes, I whispered, what happens then? Salvatore's smile was terrifying and beautiful. Then I make your problem disappear, Piccola. Permanently. What do you mean, permanently? Salvatore's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Amusement, maybe. Or approval that I'd asked. I mean, your husband signs the divorce papers without contest. You get what you need from the settlement. And he never bothers you again. How? My voice was barely above a whisper. How could you possibly guarantee that? Because men like David respond to one thing. Fear. He said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather, and I'm very good at making people afraid. I should have been horrified, should have run. But part of me, the exhausted, desperate part that had been drowning for so long, wanted to let him, wanted to hand over all my problems to this beautiful, dangerous man, and let him solve them with whatever brutal efficiency he deemed necessary. I can't ask you to do that, I said. You're not asking. I'm offering. He moved to the terrace table, poured coffee from a carafe I hadn't noticed. Sit, eat. You haven't had breakfast. There were pastries arranged on a plate. Cornetti, sfogliatelli, things I couldn't name but that smelled like heaven. My stomach growled traitorously. You're trying to distract me with food, I accused. Is it working? His smile was quick, genuine. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost boyish. Then it was gone, replaced by that controlled mask. Sit, Emily. I sat. Because my legs were shaking and my head was spinning, and nothing about this situation made sense. I picked up a cornetto, tore off a piece. The flaky pastry dissolved on my tongue, buttery and sweet. Good? He asked. Amazing. I took another bite, then another. When had I last tasted something this perfect? Where did these come from? I have a baker who delivers every morning. He watched me eat with that same intensity from last night, like my hunger satisfied something in him. She's from Napoli, makes everything from scratch. Of course you do. I laughed, slightly hysterical. You have a personal baker, why wouldn't you? You're angry. I'm confused. I set the pastry down. Yesterday I was serving champagne at a gala. Today I'm on a terrace in a penthouse, eating Italian pastries while a man I don't know offers to... I stopped, unable to finish. Offers to what, Piccola? He leaned forward. Say it. To destroy my life, to take control of everything, to make decisions for me like I'm incapable of making them myself. Is that what you think I'm doing? Isn't it? He was quiet for a long moment, studying me with those gray eyes that saw too much. Let me tell you a story, he said finally. When I was 16, my father made a deal with the wrong people. He owed money he couldn't pay, so they took payment another way. His jaw tightened. They took my mother, beat her until she couldn't stand, left her broken in our kitchen as a message. My breath caught. Salvatore. I begged for help. Went to everyone I knew. Family, friends, the police. No one would touch it. They were too afraid. His hands curled into fists on the table. So I handled it myself, found the men responsible, made them pay. Made everyone involved pay. How old were you? 16. He met my eyes. Old enough to understand that sometimes salvation requires violence, that sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to become the monster everyone fears. I understood then. The tattoos, the armed guards, the way people jumped when he spoke. What are you, Salvatore? Someone who keeps his promises. He reached across the table, covered my hand with his. I'm not asking you to love me, Emily. I'm not even asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to let me fix what's broken so you can breathe again. And what do you get out of this? His thumb traced circles on my wrist. The satisfaction of knowing you're safe, fed, cared for. His eyes dropped to my stomach, that your baby has everything it needs. You can't possibly want to raise another man's child. Why not? His voice was soft, dangerous. Better me than a father who doesn't know it exists. The truth of that hit like a physical blow. He was right. David would never accept this baby, would never forgive the betrayal, and even if he did, what kind of life would that be? Walking on eggshells, watching my child grow up in a home filled with resentment and lies. I need time, I said. To think. To process. No. The word was absolute. Time is a luxury you don't have. David already suspects. How long before he demands proof? Before he checks your phone, your bag, your body? His grip tightened. How long before he hurts you, Emily? He wouldn't, are you certain? Salvatore's eyes were ice. Certain enough to bet your life? Your baby's life? I pulled my hand away, stood on shaking legs. I need air. You're on a terrace 20 stories up. There's nothing but air. Then I need space. The words came out sharp, desperate. I need to think without you looking at me like what? Like you own me already. Silence fell like a guillotine. Salvatore stood slowly, moved around the table until he was close enough to touch but didn't. I don't own you, Piccola, but I will protect you, whether you want me to or not. That's not your choice to make. Then make it yours. He pulled out his phone, pulled up a video, handed it to me. But first, watch this. The video was security footage, black and white, time-stamped from 3 hours ago. It showed David leaving our apartment building, getting into a car I didn't recognize. The camera followed him to a house in the suburbs. Nice neighborhood, manicured lawns. The kind of place we'd always talked about living but could never afford. He knocked. A woman answered. Blonde, beautiful, wearing a robe that barely covered her. David pulled her into a kiss that made my stomach turn, then followed her inside. He's been seeing her for 8 months, Salvatore said quietly. Her name is Jessica. She's a pharmaceutical rep. He met her through work. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. 8 months. While I'd been working myself to death. While I'd been drowning in bills and lies and guilt. He'd been with her. There's more. Salvatore's voice was gentle now, almost kind. The gambling debts you know about, they're worse than you think. He owes over $200,000 to some very dangerous people. People who don't accept late payments. The phone slipped from my numb fingers. Salvatore caught it smoothly. How long have you known? I asked. Since last night. I told you. I had someone look into your life. He pocketed his phone. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. You investigated me. I investigated everyone connected to you. Your husband. Your employers. Your finances. His eyes softened. Your medical records. That's illegal. Most of what I do is illegal, Piccola. But it keeps people I care about safe. You don't care about me. You don't even know me. I know you're drowning. I know you're terrified. I know you work 2 jobs and still can't make rent because your husband gambles away every dollar you earn. He stepped closer. I know you sold your wedding ring to pay the electric bill. I know you haven't bought new clothes in over a year. I know you eat once a day if you're lucky, and that you cry yourself to sleep more nights than not. Each word was a knife, precise and cutting. Stop. I know you're 3 months pregnant with a baby you're terrified to have and can't bear to lose. I know the father was a one-night stand you can barely remember, and I know. His voice dropped to something raw. I know you've been planning to disappear. That you have $500 hidden in a tampon box and a bus ticket to Portland dated for next week. My legs gave out. I would have fallen if he hadn't caught me. Strong arms pulling me against his chest. I couldn't fight anymore. Couldn't pretend. Couldn't hold together the crumbling pieces of my carefully constructed lies. How? The word was muffled against his shirt. Because I see you, Emily. His hand stroked my hair, all of you. The parts you show the world and the parts you hide. And what I see is someone worth saving. I cried then. Really cried. Not the quiet, controlled tears I allowed myself in the shower or late at night when David was passed out. But great, heaving sobs that shook my entire body. Releasing months of fear and pain and exhaustion, Salvatore held me through all of it. Didn't tell me to stop. Didn't tell me it would be okay. Just held me, solid and warm and present in a way no one had been in so long. When I finally quieted, he guided me to the couch, settled me against his side like it was the most natural thing in the world. Better? No. I wiped my face with shaking hands. Everything is still terrible. I'm still pregnant and broke and married to a man who's cheating on me while owing money to dangerous people. True. His arm tightened around me, but now you're not facing it alone. Why are you doing this? I turned to look at him, really look at him. In the morning light, I could see the details I'd missed, the scar through his eyebrow, the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the way his jaw clenched when he was holding something back. What do you really want from me? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, redemption, maybe. Or just the chance to do something right for once. His fingers traced my cheekbone. I told you, damage calls to damage. When I look at you, I see someone fighting to survive in a world that doesn't care if she lives or dies. I was that person once. No one saved me. So maybe I'm saving you to prove that someone could have saved me. It was the most honest thing anyone had said to me in years. I'm scared, I whispered. Good. Fear keeps you alive. He tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. But let me be clear about something, Piccola. If you accept my help, if you let me into your life, there's no going back. I don't do anything halfway. I will protect you, provide for you, destroy anyone who tries to hurt you. But in return, you belong to me. Not as property, he added quickly, reading my expression. But as mine to protect, mine to care for. Do you understand? That sounds like ownership. Call it what you want, but those are my terms. I should have said no. Should have walked out. Should have found another way, any other way, that didn't involve binding myself to a man who casually admitted to violence and illegal activities. But when I thought about going back to David, to those debts, and that empty apartment, and the woman he'd been kissing while I struggled to survive, when I thought about my baby, growing inside me, innocent and deserving of so much more than I could give alone, the choice wasn't really a choice at all. Okay, I breathed. His eyes flared. Okay? Help me. Please. The words caught in my throat. I can't do this alone anymore. Salvatore's smile was slow, triumphant, terrifying. He pulled me closer, pressed his lips to my forehead in something that felt like a brand. Then consider it done, Piccola. As of this moment, you're under my protection. And I promise you, his voice dropped to something deadly soft. Anyone who tries to hurt you will regret ever being born. Block 5. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of controlled chaos. Salvatore, whose full name I learned was Luca Salvatore, moved with the precision of a general orchestrating a war. Which, I supposed, he was. Day 1. Dante arrived at my apartment while David was at work. I'd given him my key with shaking hands, terrified of what he might find, what David might have discovered. But Dante returned 3 hours later with everything I owned packed into boxes that were already being moved into a furnished apartment across town. 1 bedroom, top floor, security system that probably cost more than my car. Paid in full for a year. You can't, I started. Already done, Luca said, not looking up from his laptop. We were in his office. Dark wood, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A view that made my stomach drop. David came home early. Dante handled it. My heart stopped. Handled it how? He explained that you were leaving, that the marriage was over, that any attempts to contact you would be inadvisable. Luca's smile was sharp. Your husband was very understanding once the situation was clarified. I didn't ask what clarified meant. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Day 2. A lawyer appeared. Not just any lawyer, a woman in a suit that screamed power, with eyes like a shark and a smile that promised blood. Her name was Victoria Chen, and within 2 hours she'd drafted divorce papers that would give me everything. The car, half of David's pension, a settlement payment that made my head spin. "He'll never agree to this," I said, staring at the numbers. "He will," Victoria said with absolute certainty. "We have documentation of his affair, his gambling debts, and his financial mismanagement. Plus," she glanced at Luca, "additional leverage Mr. Salvatore has provided." I didn't ask about that either. Day 3. Dr. Rossi came to the apartment. She was in her 50s, elegant and kind, with gentle hands and a no-nonsense attitude. She examined me thoroughly, asked questions I'd been too afraid to answer before, and confirmed what I already knew. 13 weeks, she said, showing me the ultrasound on a portable machine. "Healthy heartbeat. Good size. You're underweight and anemic, but we can fix that." She handed me a bottle of prenatal vitamins. "Take these. Eat 3 meals a day. Rest. And stop carrying the weight of the world, Piccola." The nickname from her mouth made me glance at Luca, who'd insisted on being present. He stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the ultrasound screen with an expression I couldn't read. "The baby is fine?" I asked. "The baby is perfect," Dr. Rossi smiled, "though I suspect they'll be spoiled rotten if Mr. Salvatore has anything to say about it." "I don't spoil," Luca said mildly. "I provide." "Is there a difference?" I muttered. His smile was quick, devastating. "Not when it comes to you." On the 4th day, David signed the papers. I wasn't there. Luca thought it was better that way, and I agreed. I didn't want to see David's face, didn't want to hear his justifications or accusations. I just wanted it over. Victoria called at 3 in the afternoon. "It's done." He signed everything. Didn't even try to negotiate. Did he say anything? A pause. "He said to tell you he's sorry, and that Jessica is pregnant too." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. "What?" 4 months along. They're getting married next week. Victoria's voice was carefully neutral. "I'm sorry, Emily. I know it's fine." And surprisingly, it was. The betrayal felt distant now, like something that had happened to someone else. "Thank you, Victoria, for everything." After I hung up, I sat in my new apartment, our new apartment, mine and the baby's, and tried to feel something: anger, hurt, relief. But there was only numbness, like I'd used up all my emotions and had none left. Luca found me there an hour later. He'd started doing that, appearing when I needed him most, like he had some 6th sense for my breaking points. "Dante said you've been sitting in the dark for an hour," he said, flipping on lights. "I'm fine. You say that a lot." He settled onto the couch beside me, close enough to touch but not touching. "It's never true. David's moving on. Getting married. Having a baby with someone else." I stared at my hands. "I should feel something about that. Should you?" His voice was quiet. "Or are you just telling yourself you should because that's what you think you're supposed to feel?" I turned to look at him. In the soft lamplight, he looked less dangerous, more human. "How do you always know what I'm thinking?" "Because I pay attention." His hand found mine, fingers lacing through. "And because you're not as difficult to read as you think." "What am I thinking now? That you're free, but you don't know what to do with freedom. That you're terrified of being alone, but more terrified of letting someone in. That you want to trust me, but you're afraid I'll turn out to be just another man who hurts you." His thumb stroked my wrist. "Am I close?" Uncomfortably. He smiled. "I have a confession. Just one? For tonight." He shifted, turning to face me fully. "I lied when I said I didn't know why I helped you. I knew exactly why the moment I saw you in that ballroom." My heart stuttered. "Why?" "Because you looked the way I felt for years. Like you were drowning in plain sight while everyone pretended not to notice. Like you were screaming and no one could hear." His eyes held mine. "I saw you, Emily, and I couldn't walk away from that." "Luca." "Let me finish." His hands cupped my face, gentle despite their roughness. "I know this is fast. I know you're still processing everything. I know you probably think I'm insane or controlling or both, but I need you to understand something. This isn't temporary for me. You're not a project I'll lose interest in. When I commit to something, Piccola, I commit completely. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're strong enough to survive in a marriage that was killing you. I know you're brave enough to protect a baby you're terrified to have. I know you're kind even when life has given you every reason not to be. His forehead pressed against mine, and I know that I want to spend every day learning the rest. That sounds like... I couldn't say it. Like what? Like I'm falling for you? His smile was soft, dangerous. Maybe I am. Would that be so terrible? Yes. The word came out choked, because I can't give you what you deserve. I'm a mess, Luca. I'm pregnant with another man's baby. I'm barely divorced. I have no job, no money, no... You have me. He cut me off with a kiss that stole my breath and my protests. It was gentle at first, almost questioning, like he was giving me room to pull away. When I didn't, when I leaned into him instead, it deepened into something that made my toes curl. He tasted like coffee and promises. His hands threaded through my hair, tilting my head to change the angle. And I forgot how to think. Forgot every reason this was a terrible idea. Forgot everything except the way his lips moved against mine, the way his body felt pressed against me. Solid and warm and safe. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Still think this is a bad idea? He murmured against my lips. Terrible idea. But I was already pulling him back. The next weeks blurred into something that felt almost like happiness. Luca was attentive. That was the word. He showed up at the apartment every morning with breakfast from the Italian bakery. He insisted on taking me to every doctor's appointment, asking questions I wouldn't have thought to ask. He had groceries delivered weekly, always stocked with things I'd mentioned craving in passing. He was also intensely, almost frighteningly protective. When I mentioned wanting to look for a new job, he suggested I wait until after the baby was born. You need to rest. Focus on being healthy. When I ran into an old co-worker at the grocery store and stopped to chat, Dante appeared out of nowhere, hovering close enough to make the conversation awkward. When I casually mentioned my mother calling, a rare occurrence, we'd been estranged for years, Luca had his people run a background check within hours. You can't investigate everyone I talk to, I said, exasperated. I can. I will. He looked up from his laptop, completely unapologetic. Anyone who gets close to you gets vetted. That's not negotiable. That's insane. That's protection. He stood, moved to where I sat on the couch. I told you, I don't do anything halfway. That includes keeping you safe. Safe from what? My mother is difficult, but she's not dangerous. Your mother has a boyfriend with connections to the Bratva. His voice was ice. She called you 3 times in the last week after not speaking to you for 2 years. That's not reconciliation, Piccola. That's reconnaissance. The words hit like a slap. You think she's... what? Using me? I think she heard through whatever channels people like her use that you're connected to me now. And I think she's testing the waters to see what she can get out of it. His hands gripped my shoulders. I'm not trying to control you, Emily. I'm trying to protect you from people who will use you to get to me. People like her. People like her, he confirmed. Your ex-husband. Anyone who sees you as a weakness. I'm not your weakness. You're my everything. He said it so simply, like it was obvious, which makes you the biggest target in my world. The truth of that settled over me like a weight. I'd been so focused on my own problems, my own fears, that I hadn't considered what it meant to be connected to someone like Luca, the danger, the scrutiny, the way every relationship became transactional. I don't want to live in fear, I whispered. You won't. Because I'll eliminate every threat before it reaches you. His eyes were storm dark, determined. That's my job, Piccola. You just have to let me do it. At 20 weeks, we found out the baby was a girl. Dr. Rossi showed us the ultrasound, pointing out tiny fingers and toes, a perfect heart beating strong and steady. She's thriving. Growing exactly as she should. I stared at the screen, overwhelmed. A daughter. I was going to have a daughter. Emily? Luca's voice was soft. Are you all right? I don't know how to be a mother. The admission burst out before I could stop it. I don't know how to raise a child. My mother was terrible. I have no example to follow. I'm terrified I'll mess this up. Hey. He turned me to face him, hands gentle on my face. You're going to be an incredible mother. You already are. You've been protecting her since the moment you knew she existed. That's different. That's just survival. Motherhood is survival, Dr. Rossi interjected kindly. It's putting someone else's needs before your own every single day. You've already been doing that. But what if I'm not enough? Then I'll be enough for both of us. Luca's thumb wiped away tears I hadn't realized were falling. You're not doing this alone, remember? We're a team now. We're not... I stopped, unsure what we were. Dating felt too casual. Partners felt too businesslike. We existed in some undefined space between protection and possession, between gratitude and something that felt dangerously close to love. We're family, Luca finished firmly. You, me, and her. That's what we are. That night, he took me to dinner at a restaurant I couldn't pronounce. Private room, table set for two, windows overlooking the city. It was romantic and terrifying and perfect. What are we celebrating? I asked. You, her, us. He poured wine for himself, sparkling water for me. The fact that you're healthy and safe and here. You do realize this is incredibly possessive, right? The protection, the gifts, the way you look at me like you're mine? His smile was sharp. I am possessive, Piccola. I don't share. I don't compromise. And I don't let go of what belongs to me. I don't belong to you. Don't you? He leaned forward, eyes intent. Who pays your rent? Who makes sure you eat? Who holds you when you cry and promises that everything will be okay? That doesn't mean... Who do you call when you're scared? Who do you trust to protect your daughter? His voice dropped. Who do you dream about at night when you touch yourself and think I don't know? Heat flooded my face. I don't. The walls are thin, Piccola, and I've spent more than one night listening to you moan my name. He stood, moved around the table until he was close enough to touch. So yes, you belong to me, the same way I belong to you. Luca. He kissed me. Hard, possessive, claiming. And I let him, because he was right. Somewhere between the divorce papers and the ultrasounds, between the breakfast deliveries and the protective hovering, I'd stopped being just another person he was helping. I'd become his. When he pulled back, his eyes were molten. Marry me. I blinked. What? Marry me. He pulled a box from his pocket. Velvet, small, expensive. I know it's fast. I know you just got divorced, but I don't want to wait anymore, Emily. I want you to be mine in every way that matters. Inside the box was a ring that took my breath away. Diamond and sapphire, delicate and perfect. You're insane, I whispered. Probably. He took the ring out, held it up. But I'm also completely certain. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to raise your daughter as mine. I want to build a life with you that has nothing to do with survival and everything to do with joy. His eyes held mine. Say yes. I should have said no. Should have pointed out all the reasons this was crazy. The speed, the circumstances, the fact that we'd known each other for less than 3 months. But when I looked at him, I didn't see danger or possession. I saw the man who'd saved me when I was drowning, who'd protected me when I had nothing, who'd chosen me and my unborn daughter when he could have chosen anyone. I saw my future, complicated and intense and probably chaotic, but mine. Yes, I breathed. His smile was blinding. He slipped the ring on my finger, perfect fit, of course, and pulled me into a kiss that promised forever. 3 months later, we married in a small ceremony. Dr. Rossi and Victoria were there. Dante stood as Luca's best man, looking uncomfortable in a tux. I wore a simple dress that accommodated my growing belly, and when Luca looked at me walking down the aisle, I saw everything I needed in his eyes. Love, protection, possession, devotion, everything. Our daughter was born on a cold December night. 8 hours of labor that Luca refused to leave for even a moment, holding my hand and whispering encouragement in Italian. When the doctor finally placed her in my arms, tiny and perfect and ours, I understood what people meant when they said your heart could exist outside your body. "She's beautiful," I whispered. "Like her mother." Luca kissed my forehead, then the baby's. What should we call her? We'd discussed names for weeks, never settling on one, but looking at her now, dark hair like her father might have had, or maybe like Luca's, gray-green eyes that looked wise beyond their minutes. I knew. "Sophia," I said. "It means wisdom." Sophia Salvatore. Luca tested the name, smiled. Perfect. That night, watching him hold our daughter with the same fierce protectiveness he'd shown me from the beginning, I understood that I'd been wrong about so many things. Love didn't have to be gentle to be real. Protection didn't have to feel like freedom to be necessary. And sometimes, salvation came wrapped in danger and darkness and a man who loved too intensely to be safe. But it was still salvation, still love, still everything I never knew I needed. "What are you thinking?" Luca asked softly, careful not to wake Sophia sleeping against his chest. "That I'm happy." And I was. Terrifyingly, completely, undeniably happy. That I love you. That I can't believe this is my life. Get used to it, Piccola. His eyes found mine over Sophia's dark head. Because I'm never letting you go, not in this lifetime or any other. Promise? Promise. And I believed him, because Luca Salvatore was many things: dangerous, possessive, intense, controlling, but he was also a man who kept his word. He'd promised to save me, and he had. He'd promised to protect me, and he did. He'd promised forever, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that forever was exactly what we'd have. The life I'd thought was ending had actually just begun, and it was better than anything I could have imagined.